stay in the ball or you die. It's your choice. Death or slavery. Works every time. First off, I'd like to shortly address the controversy, because if I didn't, someone could bring it up. I've heard a lot of things about this game being a ripoff, and that fans from a certain game are very upset. Look, I get it. I mean, how could I not? It's pretty easy to see. But I promise you, the Shin Megami Tensei fanbase is not upset. The way you roam the world to some degree, not to mention having these entities you go out and acquire to follow you around and aid you in battle, are reminiscent. I mean, it's basically a reskin. Look at Kirin versus Unofficial. They're both horses, both have horns, they even both have the same teal and yellowish color scheme. I mean, it's almost shameless. But despite that, the new mechanics and the way it's been presented, I believe, differentiates the two enough. So I'm sure Atlus, the makers of Shin Megami Tensei, will not be suing, even if some think they should.
I'll end it thus.
Honestly, if Palworld is copying other games, then I think there's one other thing the devs should be copying.
What the hell is this?
All that being said, Palworld is an open-world monster-taming survival game made by Pocket Pair on a small loan of $10,000 in middle school labor. The game wears its inspirations on its sleeves. The game is like 50% Ark, 40% Pokemon, and 10% Breath of the Wild. And now that I've mentioned Ark for the first time in this video, I have to do this. I'm not sure how many times this will happen, but I figured this would be fun. So admittedly, this game, despite being a survival game, was ironically harder to write a survival guide for. I mean, how many ways can I say, beat the shit out of a land ball, throw your balls at it, now stick it in a 9 to 5 until it and Depresso are kicking back, listening to System of a Down just to get through the workday.
Wake up!
So getting through the game for the most part is pretty self-explanatory. You'll get your first few levels pretty soon. Beat one of these 3 like they owe you lunch money and you should hit level 2. First things first, when leveling your stats there are 5 to choose from: health, attack, stamina, work speed, and carry weight. Defense is a stat, but it gets increased by equipment, not by levels. When spending your levels, only 3 are really worth it: health, stamina, and weight. Attack seems like it would be good at first, but your base damage is enough when you add the pals to it. Also, the increase in attack levels are not really worth it unless you mostly spec into it. Work speed also seems like it'd be good, but just like with attack, your pals will be doing most of that for you. Most would be doing it better than you could. If you're worried about having put your levels in the wrong place so far, there's a fix. You can reset your stats by using the memory wiping medicine. It's a recipe that will automatically show up on the electric medicine workbench, but sadly that's not available until you're level 43. There is another way to potentially get that medicine, but for organizational reasons, I'm going to mention where that is in the PAL section later in the video. Continuing on with leveling up, let me just give you a quick rundown on how to level up fast. There's ways of using exploits to gain XP by farming certain building things or certain combat interactions, but none of that's fun and they have the highest chance of getting patched out. If you want to find out about that stuff, just look for it. As for the normal way, just about anything you do will give you XP, but there are some things that tend to give you more. The 2 things that give you the most XP is capturing pals and beating bosses. Capturing pals and hatching eggs are the best ways. Capturing 10 of each specific pal will give you a generous amount of XP, and this even level scale, so it'll continue giving you good XP as you continue to level up throughout the game. So, if you want to level up faster, here's your American brand ventilator, here's some pre-1865 bouncy balls, go make your milk runner proud. So, tech points. You normally get these as you level up and unlock fast travel points. Just like in Ark, you need to be mindful of how you're spending your tech points. You won't have enough to buy everything, so spend them on what you actually need at the time and go back for the other stuff later. If you're playing with friends, you can choose who buys what. If you're trying to farm more, there's items called technical manuals that give you tech points by consuming them. They drop in dungeon chests, and apparently Who Crates, Catris, and Wixen have a small chance to drop them as well. There's also ancient technology points, which you get as one-time rewards by beating bosses, which means the towers, world bosses, and dungeon bosses. Also, I had no idea where else to put this in the video, but to get ancient civilization parts, which, by the way, they're spark plugs, you get them from alpha pals and dungeon bosses. Obviously, pals are the biggest thing about this game.
No shit.
Because of that, this section is, Alright, well, let's get into it. In Palworld, you capture legally distinct pals with PETA-approved methods like demonstrating the alternative.
Fight back, nigga!
They fight alongside you as well as become your workforce at your bases. Pals fulfill different roles, so it's good to diversify what you're capturing. First, let's talk about your party. In your party, you can have up to 5 pals. Whenever you're assembling a team, it's best to keep in mind what kind of elements you might want to have to be effective. Of course, you can bring whatever you like. I, for instance, have a problem getting more than dark and fire types in my party. Here's the elements chart that shows what's good or bad against what. This chart is also available in glorious 144p anytime you want in the survival guide under options. In there you can also find some of what I may say in this video, but let's be honest, ain't none of us reading.
Read, nigga! Read!
One of the most important skills for those in your party is their partner skill. There's all different kinds, including some that are not for combat at all. So when making a team, think about which would be more useful to you, like using Fox Parks as a flamethrower, or Lamball as a shield. Or just skip the middleman and use the skill we all came here for. Gun. Daydream, for instance, in my opinion, is one of the best pals, especially early game because of her skill. If you craft the Daydream necklace, she'll break the rules of only being able to have one pal out at a time, and turn into a dark energy turret because Daydream can't be held back by Pocket Pair's petty programming. You can buff the damage she does by adding a Who Crates into your party to increase dark damage. Also, yes, you can have multiple Daydreams out at the same time for the low price of just one necklace. Patrol the islands with your mafia of Daydreams. There's too many pals out there that don't understand the core concept of respect. And if they disrespect you or your girls, you make sure to give them a lesson they won't forget. Girls, ice them. There's also active skills, which are just the normal moves your pals learn. They can get these by leveling up, and if you're breeding, these moves can also be passed down from parents to children. There's also skill fruit. Skill fruits are consumables that you can find out in the world, most often on trees. Using these skill fruits on a pal will allow you to grant the move the skill fruit gives to any pal regardless of type. If you want to have a fire pal with an electric move to better fight water types, go ahead. If me and Depresso can't do it, then someone out here should be getting the toaster bath treatment. Also, this is a joke, and I hope people can understand why.
Why shouldn't you put a toaster in a bathtub full of water?
Because your toast would get soggy.
Some pals can be ridden to traverse the world, using stamina to sprint and attack. If you need a good mount, you can get Dire Howl pretty early. He's pretty fast, but I've seen people in wheelchairs jump higher. Finglope is the best land mount for traversal, but you can't get the saddle till 26. They have a double jump, and at level 15 they unlock Cloud Tempest, which allows them to charge over 70 meters in a short amount of time. Also with Finglope, if you press your sprint while using the move, he'll move even further. There's also Flyers, Nightwing being the first one you're able to use. A tip I'd give is to get Nightwing and then use him to fly around the map to unlock fast travel points, see boss locations, and most importantly, look for eggs so that you can get access to late game pals much sooner. Make sure you stay on them as much as possible too. Pals are less likely to attack you when you're riding something. Unlike an Arc, pals don't take fall damage while you're riding them, and birds will not kick you off when you run out of stamina. So if you're flying across the ocean, You don't need to be afraid about it kicking you off into the middle of the ocean because you get attacked by sea monsters while its AI freaks out instead of staying the fuck still and getting you killed. There's also passive skills, which, because this video is long enough as is, I won't go super in depth on. Some are bad, some are good, some are both. Pals have random skills whenever you catch them, unless you're Kativa, in which case they always have Coward.
You worthless bitch ass nigga.
Passive skills break down into tiers in terms of strength, and you can tell the tier based on the amount of chevrons next to the name. Also, if it's golden, it's tier 3 or 4. If it's red, it's purely negative. Passive skills have a chance of being passed down when breeding, and that's all I'm going to say on them until the breeding section. You can assign pals you've captured to work at your base. Depending on your world settings, you can have up to 20 pals working at your base at once, as long as you keep doing the missions to upgrade your pal box, by the way. Make sure you get those done as soon as you can because you need those slots. Pals, as I mentioned earlier, have different roles. For instance, I know earlier I said that Daydream is really good, but there's one admission. She's terrible when it comes to building your base. Not because she herself is bad, but because for some reason in the code she still registers as a physical instance, even though she has no collision. And because she's following you around, she can float in front of you and potentially obstruct whatever you're trying to build. Daydream, sweetie, I love you, truly, but please.
Get the fuck out.
Each thing at your base would require a different form of labor to work. Handiwork is one of the most important skills because pals with it can help you craft and build stuff. Mining is good for stone, and once you need ore and other late game stuff, which by the way you need pals with mining at level 2 for them to farm things other than stone. Pals can have multiple different kinds of these, all at differing levels. The higher the level, the better. So much so that pals with artisan giving them a 50% work speed increase will get outdone by pals who have that skill only one level higher. Try and get all the work skills you need to make sure your base can be a well-oiled machine. Also, in some cases it's good to have pals that only have 1 or 2 skills because pals can get distracted by other tasks. So having a pal with less of these work skills can help make sure a job gets done. Also, instead of giving you guys a joke you've already heard about pals and the working conditions and OSHA violations and other made-up crap no one cares about, here's some Depresso appreciation.
You so fucking precious when you smile. Yeah. Hit it from the back and drive you wild. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Girl, I lose myself up in those eyes. I just had to let you know you're mine.
Pals drop things when you take them off the senses, but they also drop stuff when you capture them. Dark types drop venom glands, flame, electric, and ice types drop the organs of the corresponding element, and water types drop pal fluids. Pal fluids, on top of having an uncomfortable name, are probably one of the more tedious drops to farm for considering how many you need. But an easy way to get them is the Pin King dungeon. This dungeon spawns Pin King with 3 Pingolets. Go deal with the Pingolets, leave, then rinse and repeat. As long as you don't kill or capture Pin King, they respawn each time. I also suggest doing this method at night. Pals that aren't dark types sleep at night. This also includes the ones inside boss dungeons. Should make it a lot smoother. Speaking of drops, I did say I was going to bring this up earlier in the video, but I may as well give it its own subsection. So, Lovander, she's quite special. Number 69 in the PAL deck.
Nice.
Also, yes, it was deliberate. She used to be number 49. Funnily enough, Lavander's actually pretty good as a PAL. The active skills she has are fairly good ones. She has a lifesteal passive for you and her, which is nothing crazy, but it's kinda nice. She's got level 2 handiwork, medicine production, and transporting, as well as level 1 mining. Also, because of her running animation, she's also pretty fast in terms of transporting or getting from one task to another. And on top of that, despite not being a dark type, she's nocturnal, like they are. So she doesn't sleep, meaning she can keep working through the night. Going back to drops, that memory wipe medicine I brought up earlier. You can potentially get it as a drop from Lovander. Honestly, all of Lavander's drops are questionable. Given her, reputation, it's pretty humorous that they can drop cake. Which, while being a pun, is also the food you need for breeding. She also drops strange juice and suspicious juice, which, thankfully, are just two of the things you can craft at the medicine bench. Wait. Why does the horny pal that drops breeding food also drop drugs? Hey guys, really quick, if you're enjoying the video so far, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. I stream every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern if you want to come by and hang out. With that out of the way, let's get back to the video. Speaking of questionable things,
today's subject, slavery.
I'll make this quick. In this game you can capture people, but honestly they're not worth the trouble. They suck compared to the actual pals, and outside of doing it just cause you can, the only benefit is selling them on the black market. If you're trying to make money, human trafficking is meta. Speaking of the black market, yeah, it exists and in multiple locations. You can buy and sell pals of all species. You can, if you're willing to run that fade, capture the black market man, which would allow you to access his store as well as reset it by pulling him in and out of the pal box. Is it worth it? No clue. But now you have that information, do with it what you will. There's also a regular market at this small settlement village. Over here is the legal pal trader. Ignore the torture devices. I'm sure they're here just for show. Down here is the regular trader. If you need leather, medicine, bones, or organs, don't question how it sounds, then he's got you covered. You can also find this guy out in the world, and sometimes he'll usually have better stuff. You see this symbol? This symbol means it's an alpha pal. Assuming this game's alphas function similar to how Ark does, alpha pals would have higher base stats, or at the very least higher HP than regular pals do, on top of being much larger. I haven't been able to confirm that though, I just hope it's the case, because bigger body means bigger hitbox. One confusing part is that sometimes wild pals will get the symbol even if they aren't alpha. In these cases, the symbol is basically just telling you the pal is a badass who's many levels higher than you. So if you capture one, don't expect it to be supersized like the bosses are. Though a nice difference is that in this game, you can actually capture the bastards instead of having to sit there and watch as they roll up on you when you're just starting out, then destroy your base and everything you care about. Alright, so here's some rapid fire stuff just to get this section over with. This video is too long for me to get into specifics of what pals you should be aiming for, but late game there are legendaries as well as non-legendaries like Anubis that are still extremely good. If you want to increase your chances of capturing a pal, status effects like burning, frozen, poisoned, and electrocuted increase the chance. Also use good positioning. Back shots are more effective. That's how I got Lovander.
Criminal activity? But there's no laws against the pals, Batman.
Quick note, the back capture only works when they aren't aggro. Also, if anyone is still wondering where to get Lovander, look around in the desert after the sun goes down, because you can also check the regions pals spawn in by going into the pal deck and tabbing over to see their habitat. Also on that note, there are 3 islands on the outskirts of the map, and there are certain pals that only spawn there. These islands are actually illegal to go to, so if you see any humans there, they will attack you on sight. Being wanted in this game is equivalent to 5 stars on GTA, so best to avoid it if you can. Similar to Ark's whistle commands, you can also use commands to change your pal's aggression level. These also affect passive attack pals like Daydream. This is really helpful when you're trying to capture something. Tell them to stop attacking when it's low so they don't kill it. Medicines list what they fix, but there are a few that aren't listed, so you can pause here to see the table if you need to. Incapacitated pals can be put inside the pal box, and after 10 real-world minutes they'll be revived. Also, the viewing cage will revive them almost instantly, but this is liable to get patched out someday. Playing with friends is pretty simple. All you have to do is set the world to multiplayer and change the world settings to your liking. Then just give your friends the invite code for the world, which shows up in the options menu. If you're on Xbox, you can also invite through party chat or profile like normal. To add people into your guild, all you have to do is have a person walk up to the other and hold down the proper button. The person will be prompted, all they have to do is accept it and you're done. When playing with friends, you don't share pals technically. Whomever captures the pal is who it belongs to. Whomever hatches the eggs gets the pal. Though I did seem to notice that if you assign pals at the base, it is possible to essentially trade pals by taking the pals assigned at the base out and into your own box. The guild shares resources, even in a private chest with a lock on it. If you have resources in it, the guild can still access it to build stuff. As long as it's not resources though, you can have a private chest with your eggs or gear or whatever in it. When it comes to building bases, there's a couple of important things. You want to get flat land and try to get resources within range of your pal box. As you get further in the game, certain resources will be more important, but the most important resource is ore nodes. This isn't as crucial when just starting out, but the further you get, the more metal you'll need. Here's a quick sample of the bases I have in my single player game so you can see decent locations as well as potentially get ideas on how to build your own bases. When choosing locations for your second and third bases, the most important thing is resources. Resources like ore, sulfur, coal, and quartz are materials that you'll want access to at some point, so having bases that these can be farmed at will make things much easier. Also, you have to actually visit your other bases, because to keep the game running optimally, pals aren't spawned to farm natural resources if you haven't been around for a while. Learn to maximize your space. There's only so far out you can build, so when you need more room, try to build upwards. Just make sure that if you're building upwards that you make wide, easy pathing for your pals to use so they can get where they need to be with as little issues as possible. Make sure you have at least one berry plantation as well, and pals who have work suit abilities for planting, watering, gathering, and transporting. This way, once you put it down, they can handle the rest for you. At the feeding box, pals will always eat the first thing in the inventory, so if you want certain things eaten first, change the order. Pals do get more benefits from eating better food, so help them help you by giving them better food like baked berries, salads, or jam-filled buns, because this can increase sanity or work speed depending. Of course, you're allowed to feel other ways about it. With that out the way, here are a bunch of possible base locations you can use. Whether they're main bases or sister bases just for resources is up to you, but most of these should be decent for either type or as a farming location. So the TLDR on breeding. Make cake at a cooking facility and put it in the breeding pins box because it won't spoil. Then toss a male and female in the breeding pen and eventually an egg pops out. Breeding allows you to not only get pals you haven't yet, but it also allows you to try and get the right passive skills you want for a specific pal. For example, for mounts, you typically want Swift, for base pals, Artisan, and for combat pals, Ferocious. There's many more skills to look out for, and for the sake of time and my sanity, I'd suggest doing some extra research. If you want to know more, I'd suggest watching this video from Felicify on it, because who better to ask about breeding than a furry? There's more videos about the subject out there. The simple way to engage with breeding is to just use a breeding calculator. I'll be leaving a link to my preferred one as well as a Reddit post about passive skill inheritance RNG in the description. A huge tip is to remember that at any time you can customize your world settings. Since the game is early access and it's possible to fall through some parts of the map right now, you can avoid the pain by changing the death penalty to no drops, then using the respawn option to unstick yourself, and then change the setting back afterwards if you want. The first grappling hook can be made at the primitive workbench, but not the upgraded one. You can also slingshot yourself with the grappling gun for fast movement. Grapple onto something, then once you've built up momentum, press the button to cancel the grapple and you'll ascend to godhood. You can combat slide by holding down the dodge/crouch button while running. The glider, if used right before hitting the ground, will negate fall damage. Length of use is based on stamina, but speed is based on momentum. So sliding into a jump then gliding, or using the grappling hook tech to get speed then gliding, is a good way to get some speed. Instead of individually putting items into storage one by one, by pressing R on PC or right bumper on Xbox, any resource you have on you that's also in that storage will be auto-stacked. Alright, I think that's it. There's so many mechanics and things in this game that I had to cut things just to keep this video from being even more of a monster than it already was. I'm a little late to getting this video out, but I hope that you were able to laugh and find out something you didn't already know. Let me know in the comments if anything I said was helpful. I read every comment, so I'd appreciate your responses. Now then, I'm gonna go listen to Shin Megami music again because while editing this video, it's been stuck in my head. With that, guys, I'm Tiger Falco. Thanks for watching. Peace.